Hello, my name is Joe Rimelspach at Ohio State University, Department of Plant Pathology, and I'm going to be giving you this week's turf tips. I have several things I want to talk about, three key areas I'm going to talk about. One is sending samples to Ohio State for diagnostic work, then a little update about what we're seeing in the last week or so, and then kind of a projection into the weather and what kind of impact that may have on health, turf health, and what's going to happen this next week. Also, I want to mention, being in Columbus, of course, next week is the Memorial Tournament, so there's a lot of buzz about that going on. And also next week is Ohio Turfgrass Week, and so that'll run Sunday through Saturday, and I want to mention that a little bit more towards the end. So the first point I want to talk about is sending samples. There seems to be some confusion. This is actually some excellent turf samples from golf. These plugs are excellent, and people usually will take these and they'll show both affected grass, what's a problem, they suspect a problem, and then what seems to be healthy. Sometimes you'll send two samples, one of the affected turf and one of unaffected. In home lawns, you can just cut out a square, include the turf, the roots, or if it's an athletic field, and send it that way. The reason I'm mentioning sampling is just this week we've had a couple people ask me if we're still taking samples here on campus in Columbus, and the answer is yes. They still come to Cotman Hall. I'm going to ask Brian to post our address and website for you to refer to. But yeah, we still take those because of some changes. We used to be on the first floor, which we still are, but we're asking if samples are dropped off to be taken to our department office, which is room 201, Cotman Hall. And that way, someone will tend to make sure they're refrigerated if I'm out in the state traveling or whatever, and notify me that there's a sample waiting for me. As far as sample, this is one that came in this week. Nice package, but there were some problems that inhibited me from doing my job. Number one is I looked at the date. This was sent on May 17th, which is a Friday. I received it May 22. It was priority mail. I don't know why it took so long. You have to remember the university is not like a normal business. We kind of like vacate this place on the weekends as far as deliveries. So we ask that you mail things early in the week, preferably, if you can. Or if they're going to come in late, let me know and we'll make special arrangements. So that's one factor. The other is then to package things tightly. This is the sample that came in. Unfortunately, because it was in the mail for 5 days, a lot of the turf turned yellow just from being in the dark. Also, it shook around in the box, and so a lot of the sand from the root zone mix was mixed with the grass and into the canopy, and it was very hard to really make it as good a diagnosis. So mail early in the week, package them tightly. You can wrap them in paper or aluminum foil, plastic if they're going to be delivered quickly, and get them to me with good information. So that's a little bit about sampling. Next thing I want to talk about is what we saw this last week. It hasn't been nothing too much different from the previous week. This is another sample here of leaf spot on creeping bentgrass greens. We're still getting questions on that, and it looks very similar to what you'd expect to see with microdochium patch or pink snow mold. However, remember the disease triangle that you have to consider the host. And at this time of year, if we get a cool period or you're running wet, we could have microdochium patch pink snow mold, but that'll be primarily on annual bluegrass, Poania. If you have spots that look very similar to that and it's on bent grass, there's a good chance the culprit could be leaf spot. And you can always send samples in and we confirm those for you. We are seeing a continuation of some dollar spot in some cases on golf courses. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet on the golf side. On high cut turf, we continue to see a leaf spot. There has been some red thread if conditions are moist. And we've had some other minor problems on high cut turf, some unusual things. And I mentioned last week the white leafed disease. We're still investigating that, and we'll continue to give updates as we know more information. The last thing I want to mention is the weather patterns. Of course, in central Ohio, it's been very dry, and much of the state northward has been dry. Of course, this really reduces the amount of infectious diseases from fungi. They really need moist conditions to flourish. Now, the greater Cincinnati area has been quite wet. Now, they have a different scenario down there, so they're experiencing different disease problems. far as the forecast here, you know, if it was to cool down a little bit this weekend, it should be great for growing grass if it has adequate water. That's the one thing we have seen both on athletic fields and home lawns. People already seeing loss of color, wilting, lines from mowers going over wilted turf, things of that nature will continue if it stays dry. And then long term, they're talking about temperatures going back up again. And again, that'll be stressful on the turf, but if it stays dry, most of the problems will be environmental or management-wise and not infectious diseases. The last thing I'd just like to mention then is next week is, again, Ohio Turfgrass Week, and we'd like to celebrate that. So take an opportunity to tell people about the benefits of turf. And if on the golf course, take time maybe to talk to members about the importance of it, about your job, things of that nature. Talk to a neighbor about how to mow the lawn properly or whatever. Also, Ohio Turfgrass Foundation will be launching Bucks for Turf next week. It's an auction. Look at the website for this, and there will be some great deals there. And of course, we appreciate your participation in that very much, since the funds will help to support the organization and for research and education here at Ohio State. So that's all I have this week. I want to let you know that if you have questions, feel free to call us, and we'll be happy to help you. And one last thing I'll mention is we have this our chart, fungicide chart on turfgrass fungicides. This is being updated, so hopefully we'll have that posted on the web this week also with the new changes. So have a good week, and we'll see you later. Take care.